It's the Redirect Podcast. Search industry research, discussion, and analysis from the Black Truck Media and Marketing Headquarters. And now, redirecting you to the Black Truck team.
And welcome back to another edition of the Redirect Podcast. This is episode number 7 on Friday, June 30th. It's Jason from Black Truck Media, and I'm joined once again by Patrick and Ashley from our team here. And Patrick, why don't you go ahead and take it away and lead off on a topic for this week?
Sure. I think we touched a little bit about this in last week's episode, and I don't remember if it was pre-program or during the program, but Google rolled out a option for small businesses to open web pages or create web pages when they didn't have a web presence as part of the My Business program. That I think was originally rolled out middle of June, the 13th, according to this article on Search Engine Land, which was published on the 27th. The author of this article went through and created a web page. Decided to do that to test it out and see how it is and go through the process. It's not a terrible looking page, but it's very simplistic. It's about as effective as setting up in my opinion, it's about as effective as setting up a Google Plus page. It's kind of the same thing. The pros that came out of it were that you could get your own domain for a fee. You could buy a domain through Google. Otherwise, it's mybusiness.business.site. So, unless you're paying for it, the free version is going to be, in this case, blacktruck.business.site. What would be the URL? Unless you bought Black Truck from there. So we did a search for it, and it brought back 113,000 results. So people are out there using it so far. So people are testing the concept. The downside to it, I felt, were justifiably not really worth it for somebody to do it. If you're going to go through all this effort, so the negative, one page.
Yep. Single page, there's nothing
page.
else. Don't
have
pass
the
go.
option. Yeah, there's no ability to add custom pages. There's no ability to add any meta descriptions of any sort. No meta title, no meta description, nothing. There's no analytics integration. There's no social button sharing. You can't add any structured data to it. You can't add any alt text images. And there's no additional call to action buttons.
So it's interesting though, because the cons are all things that we as search professionals are going to geek out on.
Right.
If you're like a one man band small business though, like I'm not even shooting myself in the foot by saying this, but like, does that really matter? We've had discussions before. You know, if you're this uber local centric like core shop for whatever it is that you do, the question is always like, can I dominate local search and not have a website? Well, this is an easy way to have like a legitimized web presence, have some control over it amongst your Google My Business listing, your Yelp reviews, your Facebook page, and all of those things,
right? And
not have
I think it's all
additional investment
on your business structure too, and like what your business is, and it's good. It's a good starting point. Definitely, if you have maybe you have an idea, spitballing with some buddies or something, and you want to start a small business, and you've got this little thing, and all of a sudden, like, oh, we have a business, we need a webpage, quick, and you put something together. And I think it's a great place to start and monitor and do things too. But I think it's ripe for outgrowing.
Is there any integration with Google's domain purchase service?
Yeah. You can it shows he's got screenshots in it, and as you're going through the process. It asks you if you'd like to buy a domain right now. It's like you got a dialog box that pops up and says buy domain. So it'll make them money. It'll make Google money too.
Well, of course, they're going to monetize from
it.
So is the ultimate win to sell more domains?
Sure.
Sure.
But I mean, it's already such a competitive field to find the domain you want. But yeah, I guess if you can start selling them, the caveat is you have to have a verified business in Google My Business.
Oh, so
I didn't mention
that part.
Yeah, so you have to be verified in order to move forward with it. The good side to it, it's easy to create. It's easy to sync with your Google My Business profile. You can add custom cover photo arts and images and whatnot. There's a Google map embedded into it that you can put with your hours into it. And it's mobile friendly. And it can be managed right from your Google My Business profile.
Boys, so they're getting even more integrated, right? So last week we talked about Google Posts. We've got some content in the blog about that. So all of a sudden, Google My Business, or what we'll refer to as GMB, is finally evolving at a pretty good clip, right? It's almost like they had all these things in the coffers, and they're finally like, oh, look.
It kind of feels like it all happened together, and eventually it's all going to play nicely as to one thing. And this is like maybe they were about 10 years too quick on Google Plus. And not saying this is Google Plus, but these are almost like the little tiny elements of it being prioritized and optimized one segment at a time.
Interesting. I'm anxious to see how it goes. Was there any? Did they allude to anything in there on like, hey, we have like Black Truck, we have a site. I'm sure there's going to be like, I'm curious to see maybe we'll call them gray hat SEOs that go and claim that.
In addition to their own full end site?
Sure, yeah. Because if you don't go off of I'm not going to buy a domain from Google, I'm just going to use mybusiness.google.com. I would think that Google is smart enough, but at the same time, I think there's probably some gray hat individuals in the world. I won't call them true black hat, but gray hat individuals in the world that will try and sway.
Anytime something rolls out, there always is until it gets fine-tuned.
Right. Interesting. Good find, though. Good find. Ashley?
Well, you had mentioned Google Posts, and I had just seen something on Search Engine Journal about how Google Posts have not rolled out to all business categories yet, even though it was announced that they have. It looks like hotels is the category that's still not fully able to use the feature.
Really?
And there may be some other categories too, but there apparently is a way to contact Google and let them know that you want access to that. And
there's definitely, if you go to, I think it's, it might be like post.google.com. I can't remember what exactly it is. We have it linked in our blog post, but it's very much a walkthrough request access. Even though if you are in your GMB dashboard, it's very much there. If you're on the profile that you select, the post is very much there if you already have access to it. So it's interesting they wouldn't have rolled it out to hotels.
Yeah.
That almost seems like a slap. Because it's such a big industry,
right?
And search is so big for hotels.
And we had talked recently about how there was, I forget the exact feature, but this specific search feature that was being tested specifically with hotels because it is a popular.
It's always their beta tests their beta tests are always major brands, so major hoteliers. Big box retailers like a Home Depot, Lowe's, that type of thing, and then car manufacturers. Like those are their real big three players. We could probably pick out a couple key brands from each one of those that they're going to test and beta test with all the time.
There's so many search partners with hotels and things like too, like your kayaks and Pricelines and things like that. How do you get around that? You know, at what point, who gets the snippet on the side? You know, the post. You know, because kayak is going to show the Hilton.
I imagine that means, I imagine vying for that spot is millions of dollars for them. It's not, we're not talking thousands of dollars, it's millions of dollars. And we've segued into featured snippets at this point or what's showing up in the knowledge panel. But monetarily speaking, it's got to speak numbers.
And it doesn't terribly surprise me that hotels hasn't rolled out yet for it, because you would think they've got to do some extra checking and coding and testing and retesting and more testing in order to make sure it's clean and consistent every time, when there isn't easy hacks for the gray bordering on Onyx hat SEOs.
Onyx, huh?
Yeah.
That's
not
a new one.
Fully black.
You're not black hat, you're Onyx. Okay.
Yeah.
Granite?
Yeah, granite.
I think we just coined something new.
Yeah, there you go.
That's really good, though. That was what. Where was that article from again? Remind me.
Oh, it's just a quick mention on Search Engine Journal.
Oh, okay, cool, cool. I think another one from Search Engine Land, jumping into some maybe more paid search side of things. It's kind of that there's a running column, if you will, if you go and do any kind of searching on Search Engine Land. There's a spotted in AdWords, so it's changes that are rolling out that people have either it's just randomly shown up in the wild, and you have access to it, or you don't. And this one is dated from June 28th. Ginny Marvin posted, spotted in AdWords, check a box and automatically create a headline test. But did you see it in the wild, or you read the article?
I read the snippet to the article.
Okay.
I didn't read the article.
So A/B testing is nothing new, at least for us managers of paid search campaigns, right? Like, you should always be testing headlines, description text, everything, kind of being relentless in that. But it's basically saying ditch your manual A/B testing and let machine learning figure out the best ads. So you're going to write your first initial, I'm dropping my final URL in, here's my headline 2, so 1 and 2 for expanded text, and then my description and whatnot. But if you check the box for create a second ad with headlines in reverse order, what it does is it will basically Google's machine learning process will then kind of re-engineer, for lack of better phrasing, the headline and serve up one that is best performing. Maybe a little self-serving in Google's part. I mean, no different than using hey, do you want to target other people? Do you want us to conservatively or aggressively find more people? Well,
right.
No kidding, that's in their best interest. It may not be in the best interest of you running your AdWords campaign or our client, but it's certainly in the best interest of Google for you to spend more money. So, I mean, genuinely, they want it to be a win-win-win, but I found that really interesting. But I think an action from that is that, why you should always be testing that now, right? So if you're in AdWords, you're new to AdWords, or even if you're kind of a vet of AdWords, if you're seeing ad creative that's underperforming, or you want to test different creative, you should go ahead and test that. Mm-hmm. And so set your ads to rotate evenly for a certain period of time, whether that's 90 days or indefinitely, and see what starts to come out of that. I think that's really important. So now they're saying, well, let's automate that process for you. But I found that interesting, and we'll see. Nobody else has really stated that they've seen it in either the old AdWords interface or new AdWords interface. So it's just kind of a onesie twosies. They're experimenting, and it's very much nothing's been announced at this time. So I'll kind of leave it. We'll leave it at that and move along. So
yeah, I read another article on the whole kind of machine learning side of it too, more based on voice search. That's something that has been kind of a popular topic of conversation here, and I wouldn't say obsessed, but I always like to start a conversation about the future of search with voice search, and how as an SEO, what are we going to do about it? And Search Engine Land, June 28 article about it. This article is geared towards B2B marketers, why B2B marketers need to pay attention now to voice search. And it doesn't really talk much about the B2B side. It's just B2B was at the very end. It just gave some data about who's using voice search and what is expecting. And the biggest takeaway I got away from it is that the first result is what's going to be read out loud when you do voice search results. And if that result has a featured snippet, the whole featured snippet is going to be read. So the goal is to optimize for your featured snippet, because the featured snippet is what's going to win the voice search, and that's where you have the best opportunity to get your win. If you can get in that position 0, which, as we know, position 0.
There's a lot of other factors that go into it.
Yeah, there's a lot of randomness that goes into it, and it might be the 5th organic on the page, might be the featured snippet.
But at least you're at, I think that's, at the end of the day, keep that in mind, is that if you're vying for a featured snippet spot, I have not read anywhere, even in the stuff that, like the team at Stat, I think Rob Bucci's team has done a really good job at talking about in depth on featured snippets and how to win them is that, the underlying factor at the end of the day is being on the first page.
Right.
That's anything that I've read. I'm sure there's other use cases out there where that's been an anomaly and I could be on page 2. I highly doubt that. But so A, you already have to be on that page.
Right.
Which means you're highly relevant to begin with.
Yeah.
Let alone answer that.
This article also talked about who's using it. I thought it was kind of interesting that Google's voice recognition has improved 95%. It is now 95% accurate, which is an improvement of 20% by 2013.
Wow.
So that's kind of nuts to think that 90%. I can't even understand 95% of speakers.
Well, but I think we talked about it too in a previous episode where the adaptation of even voice search, where it's going to be more every day, if you will, adaptation is not going to be there until it's like 99% accurate. But the point is that we're 95% already, and like we're just at, when did really these home devices really start to populate the market was this past holiday season.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I talked about that, how this last holiday season, the number one product for Amazon was the Alexa. It also gave a funny chart on here about when do you use voice search, referencing your mobile device in different places, like at home by yourself, at home with friends. They express that a lot of people are shy about using it. Are you just going to be in like a crowded room in public just talking about it in different age demographics and income demographics?
Except for those people walking, through the mall or through a store that are clearly talking into their phone and it's texting.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
I don't understand
it's
that.
like the Bluetooth earpiece of today or something.
Right.
Anyway.
One of the different categories where they asked, I thought was just kind of funny. It says in the theater.
What?
Like, are you? A percentage of people enough to actually even blip on the scale showed that they'd be willing to use in the theater.
Rude.
Yes.
Wow, shut that thing off.
Yeah, no kidding.
I think I've seen a similar graph. It may be different, but I saw one that was like in the bathroom. I don't know if that showed up on that graph.
Public restroom.
There we go.
restroom.
There you go. Yeah, you always hear the awkward people talking in the bathroom. You go, really? Like you could.
Or they accidentally clicked a link they didn't know had audio on it.
Yeah. As a segue to that, I'm gonna jump in actually on that. The other piece that I read, which plays right into that, was it would have been from, I want to say, like e-retailer, which is now Digital Commerce 360 or whatever, but it led me down another rabbit hole to some Adobe analysis that they did. But a voice assisted device sales are up 39%. So it's interesting that all kinds of details on the digital commerce side. They were analyzing sales of like Google Home units versus Amazon Echo Dot. But the devices, the sales of those devices are up 39%.
Compared to when?
That looks like, based on 14.3 billion visits to online retailers from May 2016 to May 2017.
Okay.
What consists of an assist? Didn't you say it was...
I'm sorry, voice assistant devices being sold.
Oh, okay.
Right, not sales from a search query from, OK Google.
Got it.
Which my phone's probably doing a dance over there right now, but... It's interesting that they talk about voice assistant sales are up 39%. It's similar to we talked about in a previous episode about the percentage of growth that you might see from organic search. Like the fact that more people are online, or organic search growth in mobile, the fact that more people are using their mobile devices for searches. It's almost like you can't really make that claim, or shouldn't make that claim as a marketer. Like, oh, look, this grew by 10%, or our engagement grew from mobile by 10%. Well, no kidding. It's because there's more of our users are now on their mobile device using our site than before. I can understand a use case of making sure that the mobile user experience is great, but at the end of the day, it's very much apples to oranges, because the user base is growing because we're forcing your hand into it, right? I mean, Ashley, we talked about it earlier. We celebrated the 10th anniversary of the iPhone and how archaic it was then. But think about it. If we didn't have the iPhone 10 years ago, would we be having this discussion? Would you sit there and navigate the web with a BlackBerry the same way that you navigate everything in touchscreen and thumbable mode? No, you wouldn't. It wouldn't be the same user experience. So I just think that it goes back to, it feels like countless conversations we're having is this more natural language and natural speaking content that's on your site. You can't optimize for these voice searches if you're still using 5-year-old tactics, 15-year-old tactics. Those are not going to work. If you have content that is 2 or 3 years old and it's not purposely written for a human, because voice searches are longer. The intent there is much more descriptive. It's not just jobs near me, jobs Grand Rapids. It's very much, I'm looking for a specific job in Grand Rapids, or I'm looking for a specific job at an employer in Grand Rapids. Like as human beings, we speak at a certain cadence, which is a lot different than we type. We actually speak faster. And definitely in a much more natural approach.
And verbose, more
yes,
verbose.
Very much
usually.
So. I will leave things at that. I really, it's good to piggyback off of what you were saying there. That was great.
Yeah, this article, to backing into yours, said you really have to focus on long tail, the long tail stuff. And I like to, if I have to text it while I'm in the car or something, I'll just hit the record button and I'll start speaking for a text or a search or something, and I'll glance over the screen and watch it like populate and think for a second and then adjust what I said. It will I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but it will immediately review or post what it thinks you said, and then it thinks about it for just that split second, and then all the words change.
And for you, is that that's a function in iOS, right? Versus Google itself.
That's
Yeah.
So it's just interesting to see its wheels turning.
It would be interesting to do a side-by-side comparison of like because you guys both have an iOS, your iPhone 7, so you're the latest build of iOS versus the Android Pixel. In my case, I would be curious to see the machine learning to see who's more accurate, because it's known that Siri is very much outdated.
Yeah.
And Apple's trying to step it up, but I think that they are far behind the curve of where Alexa and Google is with their services.
We'll have to come up with some obscure voice queries.
I just built something in my head, so we'll discuss off camera here.
But I think to your point exactly about the long, like, it's not just long tail. It's like, this is like uber long tail, conversational. Show me a tool that can be used by marketers and SEOs that will actually give us the data based on that query. It does not exist. No. You're still going back to these seed, root keywords, even quote-unquote, air quotes here, long tail keyword phrases that might be, jobs near me or pizza near me, something like that. But it's what comes after that or before that query, that core query, is the data that is very much unknown.
Yeah.
And the only way to know it that I'm aware of right now is you're going to see some of that in Search Console, and I think that's going to increase. And then we can see it in AdWords, actual search terms data. So not the data that the keywords that you're bidding on, but flip over to the search queries tab and look at that data as well. I think that's a really good indicator. But total big rant on natural speaking search.
Well, the second thing that I was going to share this week is an article I found on Moz, written by Russ Jones. And this is from June 26th. And it is, again, about content.
No, say it isn't so.
I'll try to sneak these in when I can. So the topic was using data to produce great content. I like how he introduced it. He said, so where do you look when you have run out of words? Numbers. And he went on to discuss how you can use data that you have access to build out some content that can catch people's attention. He recommended using Google Analytics, Search Console data, and AdWords data pick out any trends, perhaps around the holidays. Perhaps you notice that more people search for certain keywords at certain times. If there's any local holidays, like a festival or event that makes your data unique from the rest of the country. So I thought that was an interesting place to mine for potential content ideas. And then he also touched on sales data and survey data. And toward the end, he talked about building in an element of surprise through perspective. So he gave the example of the cost of ending polio between 2013 and 2018 is $5.5 billion. Well, that's a huge number. People probably don't really have any way to really,
What
conceptualize
about a graphic
in their head.
or something?
Right. So he gives a graph, and he puts it in perspective by comparing it to the amount of 2 weeks worth of iPhone sales, which is just over $5 billion. So, so if someone were writing something trying to raise funds to help end polio, they'd be like, "Hey, look, people, this can be done, right?"
Right.
So I
Interesting.
thought that was a really, really cool way of using data to put things in perspective, and as he said, add some surprise and give some good visuals to help people connect with the point you're trying to get across. So I thought that was a great resource.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good, really good recap. A lot of good information, I think, in this episode. I think here we are headed into the 4th of July Independence Day holiday weekend, I guess, with kind of it falling in a weird time. It'll be interesting to see and get some feedback from, I know certainly as we track our client data, as you're tracking your own website data to see increases, decreases with the holiday falling kind of in this weird quasi middle of the week type of deal. I'm always curious to see how the data geek in me wants to know what happens there
What would be neat to see
based on
is,
industry.
if there was a way we could track where people are searching from.
Oh,
Like
interesting.
Home-based versus
Oh,
up
yeah,
north.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Because
Right.
our whole team is independently going up north somewhere
Yeah,
this
sure.
weekend, and I think that's part of tradition of the least in the north.
So could you see then based on, do you go granular as you can and say,
Right.
oh look, the increase in our mobile search queries went up, and the location side is going to be different more on visitors, but that would be a fun one to go into. Okay, there you go. Patrick said he's gonna start diving into the analysis of that. But with that note, good luck, and we will catch you on the next episode of the Redirect Podcast. Thank you.
This has been the Redirect Podcast. Check out the show notes at blacktruckmedia.com and add us on iTunes and Stitcher.